love the channel and find it useful in becoming a happy retiree. Subscribe today. We'll go to Richard, who joins us from Griffin. Richard, good morning. Welcome to the show. What's going on? How can I help?
Well, about 10 years ago, I was looking to do some investing, and a person directed me to land, and I bought a lot, empty lot, and I bought it under the 1031 tax shelter.
Got it. So you were selling something else, some sort of other real estate, and ended up doing a like-kind exchange into another property.
No, I wasn't selling anything. I had cash, and I wanted to put the cash to what I thought would be a better effort. And,
Got it.
And so I bought this lot and did the 1031. And my question now is it's still an empty lot. It has appreciated considerably because it's a lake lot. And how do I get rid of it?
Well, so is it purchased then? It's not retirement money, correct? It's not in an IRA. This is after-tax money.
Yeah.
But you bought it in a 1031 exchange? See, that's what I'm not quite understanding, because usually a 1031 means that you had real estate money, you made a profit on it, and in order to avoid the taxes, you were able to do a 1031 exchange into another property, effectively, and you defer the taxes until you sell this new piece of property. What you're telling me is that there was some sort of 1031 fund set up, and you just put your original money went into a 1031 fund, it sounds like?
No, that's what I'm trying to figure out. This was a realtor, and he said to me, "Oh, man," he says, "you need to buy this under the 1031." And I said, "Oh, okay, whatever." And so it was just pure cash. And
what kind of property are we looking at here? So it's an investment piece of land.
It's investment.
You put how much into it? 50,000?
No, 150.
150. What's it worth today?
What's the what?
What is the value, do you think, today?
Oh, about 300,000.
So it's wow. Okay. And so you don't want to build on it. You'd rather just sell it and take the cash?
Yeah.
Take the money and run?
And the question is, do I have to buy another empty lot, or can I buy a lot with a house on it?
Well, I mean, if you want to avoid the taxes, then from my experience in this, and I'm not completely understanding how you put money into this to begin with, but
well, I probably not either.
Yeah, I mean, that usually, let's just say you'd bought this. What you would typically do if you're trying to avoid or defer paying that $150,000 in capital gain that you have, you bought it for $150, it's worth $300. Let's call it a $150,000 capital gain. You would then do a 1031 once you sold it. You take the proceeds and you buy another like-kind property, and you'd have to use a 1031 intermediary that will effectively they broker the deal or help you broker the deal, and that money goes directly in another property, and that way you continue to have it invested in another sort of property. Go ahead.
How stringent is the like-kind property?
It's not. Again, I think that's more of an opinion. I mean, if you're a 1031 intermediary and that's what you do for a living, they're going to give you how far you can stretch that like-kind property, right?
Yeah.
So, is it an office building and it's going to go into an apartment building, but in the apartment, there's also offices. So obviously it's a really good question. I mean, what is the perfect like kind that the IRS doesn't disallow? That gets really specific, and you really have to talk to a 1031 exchange real estate specialist to figure out what would be like kind in your case.
I see.
But it sounds like to me that if you didn't have a lawyer and you didn't set this up specifically through an intermediary, I don't really know how it would have originated as a 1031, but maybe it did. Maybe it did. Maybe there's something that it would seem to me that'd be fairly rare. But again, there's the world of finance is almost an infinite pattern of uniqueness. So it could very well have been the case. But it sounds like really what's important moving forward here, you got to find another piece of property that fits. and continue to invest the money. Otherwise, if you take it out and you put it into, let's say, a mutual fund or stocks or bonds or anything, you're going to pay your full capital gain rate, which, by the way, may not be as high as you think. Depending on your income bracket, the long-term capital gain rate is pretty, there's a lot to that rate. If you're in the 15% tax bracket or lower, it's actually 0, Richard. If you get above the 15% bracket, then it's going to jump up to 20.
Well, I just retired, so my income went in the bucket.
Okay, so you're going to be at a lower capital gain rate. It might be 15%. It's probably 15% for you. It can go up to 20. And then if you have a really high income, you can get a surcharge on top of that of another 3.8%. So there's a lot to the long-term capital gain rate. And when you do make a transaction like this, it does impact your overall adjusted gross income. So it actually, your rate is variable throughout your tax return. So it's a relatively complicated scenario, and you've got to get a tax projection in order to figure out what your rate would be. So this is where you go to a CPA, you sit down, you give them all the parameters, and you say, well, if I sold this thing and didn't do a 1031, what would my tax liability be? And we can easily figure that out. Or a CPA firm running a tax projection, like a mock tax return for you, will easily be able to figure that out. If the tax numbers come back high and you want to continue to leave that asset in real estate, you're going to have to do a 1031 from what you're telling me. And you're going to have to go to a 1031 intermediary specialist in order to do that. But that would be, I would first, if it were me, I'd sit down and figure out my potential tax liability first, Richard, to see if it's even worth going through doing a 1031, because maybe, just maybe, you don't want to keep that money totally tied up in real estate. But we'll see. Hi, I'm Wes Moss, and thanks for taking a minute to hear about what's so different about my new book, You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think. So unlike other retirement books, this book will give you a step-by-step guide, whether you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, to learn from what these successful and happy retirees did to get there. I hope you enjoy the book, but more importantly, I know that it'll help you retire sooner than you think.